Hey, friends. I'm intimacy coach Leah Carey, and I'm host of the podcast Good Girls Talk About Sex. Today, we're looking at a couple scenes from Bachelor in Paradise, episode 4, where we're going to take a look at some fun games to spice things up if it's getting stale in your bedroom, plus why things went so wrong so fast with Kenny and Mari. Let's do this. All right, so the first thing I want to look at is the scene where we had a double date and the guys were blowing on the skin of the two women they had taken out. Let's watch.
The important thing on intimacy is to know the perfect places, the magic buttons on the other one.
This is the kind of stuff I'm referring to when I say there's so much more to sex than just penetration. This is a perfect example. Blowing on somebody's skin without touching their skin can be an incredible turn on. I mean, did you get hot watching that? Because I know I did. And the woman who's leading them in this exercise is right. Knowing those perfect places and those magic buttons is amazing, but don't let that stop you from getting started. You could talk yourself out of having this kind of fun by saying, oh, I don't know how to do this right. I'm going to get it wrong. My partner's going to be disappointed. And suddenly your brain is off to the races. Instead, focus on just trying new things. Blow somewhere and see what kind of reaction you get. And if it's great, then you know you've just discovered one of their magic buttons. And in fact, let's look at this because that happens with Jessenia and Chris.
That's a good one.
Some good ones.
See how when she gets that, like that tingle, she goes, oh, that was a good one. And he knows because he's paying attention. Ooh, that's a fun spot. And then he keeps going. He doesn't just stay right there because you can overstimulate a spot and then it stops feeling fun. But if you remember what that spot is, you can circle back to it and you'll get another response and then away from it and then come back to it and you'll get another little response. That is the joy of playing around and exploring. So now let's check in with Deandra.
Person I'm like, I don't want to be touched, but I was like really comfortable. I'm oddly relaxed, like the way that he's moving around my body. It's very sensual.
So I really appreciate that Deandra says, I'm not a big touch person, and that's perfectly okay. There is nothing wrong with her. There's no missing synapse. It's not that she's fooling herself. She's just not someone who desires a lot of touch at this moment in her life. That could change over time. Hormonal changes, age changes, changes in just sort of how you relate to life. All of those things can affect our touch need. But what's really fantastic is that she can relax into this experience because he's not touching her. He's interacting with her. He's connecting with her. He's paying attention to her, but he's not touching her. And so that allows her to relax into this experience. I think that this exercise is brilliant. And if you're looking for something to spice things up without, having to spend a lot of money, what could be more free than using your breath on your partner? And then see how Jessenia responds to this, because we have not seen her respond to anything like this.
So yeah, I like that.
Okay, we've done the fun stuff. So now let's dive into the harder stuff, which is Kenny and Mari. And why did things fall apart so fast? So I want to start with the idea of dating monogamously versus dating non-monogamously. Now, if you're out in the quote unquote real world, you might date a whole bunch of people before you find somebody who you're interested in dating more seriously. And during that time, you are essentially dating non-monogamously. You have not sort of had that conversation where everybody agrees that you're quote unquote going steady. Now, one or both of you might be under the impression that you're in a monogamous relationship, but until you've had that conversation and until you've actually spelled out what that means for each of you, it would be fair for the other person to assume that you are dating non-monogamously. You are still sort of playing the field and seeing who's out there. So let's look at what Mari says to Kenny.
At the end of this, if we're together, I want to be 100% sure. I don't want to have any regrets at the end, and I don't want to have any what ifs, you know? And so if I am asked on a date, like, I don't want to immediately be like, no, not happening.
Here's the weird thing about this show. They're taking monogamy and putting it up on a pedestal while putting everyone in a position where they have to engage non-monogamously, or they don't have a show. There's not enough drama. There's not enough intrigue. So the producers are saying, we want you to find your person and be monogamous, but they are also creating a situation where non-monogamy is kind of expected and required. So what Mari is doing is kind of being a grown-up and saying, I just want to be clear that I really like you and I am wanting to grow this into something that could potentially be monogamous. But I'm also, reasonable and rational and practical enough to see that there are going to be some other choices here, and we're not quite at that point of monogamy yet. And so I just wanted to say that out loud to you. In the real world, that's exactly what you should do. On Paradise, unfortunately, that behavior, saying things out loud, communicating clearly, that is not going to fly, because people are so wrapped up in their head and the fantasy that has been created around this production.
Where does that leave us at? Just everybody go about their business? I mean, it can't just be like, you go about your business and I just wait and see what you do.
No, I know. That's not what I'm suggesting. You told me, if you're gonna do that, then maybe I should go explore other relationships. So I'm now like, did I just things up?
So Kenny is, and let me say, I am not a big fan of Kenny's, but in this case, he is saying, he's actually asking the question he needs to ask. Unfortunately, neither of them have the vocabulary they need to navigate this conversation in a really helpful way. But Kenny's asking the right question, which is, so if you're doing this, do I get to do it too? If you're going to continue dating other people, I should be able to continue dating other people too. He is on the right track. These kinds of things need to be said out loud and really explored by both people. Okay, so then we see Demi make a move on Kenny. Kenny accepts because he thinks he's just been dumped by Mari, which did not actually happen. But again, neither of them has the vocabulary to really understand what the other is saying. So Mari sees Demi making out with Kenny. And this is when she gets really upset. And her take on it is, If I were to do this, it wouldn't be here in front of you. You're making a fool of me and making me feel terrible by doing this in front of everyone. And now here's another piece of vocabulary that could have really helped this conversation. There are different ways to go about dating or having relationships non-monogamously. And it's really helpful when you can say to your partner, I am somebody who wants to know everything that's going on because that makes me feel more safe and more secure. Or to be able to say to your partner, I'm someone who needs a don't ask, don't tell sort of policy between us, because I know if I hear things, it'll upset me. As long as I don't hear anything, I can, I can make up my own story or I can ignore it or whatever. Some people need all of the information. Some people need to have none of the information. And then there, of course, are people all through the middle part of that spectrum. In this situation, Mari is basically saying, I need to be in a don't ask, don't tell. If you're going to do this, if this is going to be the way that this relationship goes, I need you to do it where I can't see it and not be affected by it. And Kenny is thinking, well, what the hell? If they had been able to have that very first conversation using words like dating monogamously, dating non-monogamously, out in the open, don't ask, don't tell, these kinds of words and conversation could have eased this whole thing. I'm not saying that they would have gotten out of it unscathed, but they would have been operating under a much cleaner set of vocabulary and guidelines that might have helped things to not blow up as spectacularly as they did. Now, there's one final thing I want to show you.
And here I am thinking, like, maybe he'll plan something cute. Maybe he'll do something for me, like show me that he really wants to be with me. But this is the exact opposite.
So what Mari is telling us is that she needs to feel seen and appreciated by Kenny. And she's not getting what she needs. That, I think, is what's underlying all of this. If she had gone to him at the very beginning and instead of saying, I want to see other people, if she had said, here are my needs, and I need to feel like you see me and appreciate me. If you want to talk about it in terms of love languages, I need to have you do things for me. I need to have you do acts of service, put together a little date for me on the beach or whatever. Then she could have actually gotten her needs met. Instead, I think what happened is she wasn't feeling like she was getting her needs met. And so she went to him and said, I want to see other people, hoping that she would find somebody who would really fully meet those needs, and or that Kenny would think, oh my God, I'm losing her, so I'm going to do some grand gesture to get her back. Kenny didn't pick up on that. All he heard was, I'm out, I'm done, let's blow the whole thing down. And so he goes with Demi. And Mari sees that and she thinks, what I really wanted was him to pay attention to me. I talk a lot about how important it is to communicate. Part of that is having the vocabulary to have a really good communication. And in this case, in this situation, a lot of that vocabulary was missing. And people weren't really clear on their motivations. Mari was looking for something that she couldn't verbalize, so she asked for something else. Kenny wanted Mari's full attention, and if he wasn't going to get it, then he was going to sabotage the whole relationship. There are a lot of things moving at cross purposes here. And that, I believe, is why this whole thing blew up to the extent that it did. Okay, that's it for today. If you'd like to take any of the principles we've discussed today and implement them into your life, I offer personalized coaching for individuals and couples, and all of that info is at leahcarey.com/coaching. When you work with me, I promise to help you feel safe exploring your sexuality. Together, we'll help you see your needs and desires without judgment. For more information and to schedule a discovery call, click the link in the video description, and I'll talk to you again soon.